Hello everyone and welcome to Stefan's podcast, the podcast for everything Japanese news and what's going on in my little island. Hope you're having an absolutely fantastic day. We've got some great news stories to go through today, so let's jump straight into them. We've got a lot of tourist news stories for you and some people like me who are living here in Japan, and this is the first one. An Australian man has been arrested and now been sent to prison for claiming that what he was doing was actually a language mix-up. This story is probably the weirdest story that I've ever heard in Japan, so just lock in for this. It's late o'clock in Tokyo, and a guy has been on the booze, he's had a few drinks. He then decides to head on his way home, and at 11:30 at night, decides to start doing parkour in the street. He then smells the odour of gas and sees that there's a building next to him. So he scales onto the sort of balcony or roof terrace area, picks up a shovel and then starts banging on this old man's doors. And what he claims to be saying is, get out. Now, no, he claims to be saying, go to a door so that I can speak to you or whatever. The Japanese man freaks out and thinks that he's being robbed because apparently in Japanese, go to da this is a robbery basically. And he claims that what he wasn't saying was this, he was saying go to door. And then later on there's even more language confusion with the two get into a scuffle because the old man thinks that he's being robbed, and obviously rightly so. This man stands his ground and goes, you know what, you're not robbing me, Mr. Australian man, I'm taking you down. So after they get into a fight, the man asks, can you walk? And which apparently sounds like kane wa doko da, so where is the money? Which this story doesn't make any sense whatsoever. This was his defense. He said he was just speaking English and that he wasn't trying to rob him. He has now been sent to prison for this, and I believe he's going to be in prison for, I think it was just over a year. It was like some odd number, like 470 days. This is such a weird story. This definitely sounds like he was doing something wrong. First of all, why are you doing parkour in Japan late at night? That's just a recipe for disaster anyway, to get you sent to prison in Japanese prisons when they have literally some of the worst criminal cases in the world, as in they don't need to even charge you. You can be held in Japanese prisons for something stupid like 20 or 21 days without formal charges. This is why, if you come to Japan, you behave yourself. But doing parkour is weird enough, and then going onto someone's balcony is extra doubly weird. Sometimes I think you don't mess around, and this guy messed around and found out. But what do you think? Do you think this guy is innocent, or do you think he's telling big old porky pies? Because I think his lies are off the chart. But hey, if this guy is telling the truth, well, it's the weirdest story that I've possibly ever heard. The next news story for you is about us foreigners doing silly foreign things in Japan. This is probably the most stupidest thing that I have ever seen in Japan. Well, maybe not the stupidest, but it certainly gets up there. A social media star, a star, some woman who's apparently also a gymnast, decided to come to Japan and start doing pull-ups on the Torri Gate and then filmed it. She was doing a little dance while she's doing her pull-ups on the Torri Gate, and the Japanese people, and also people like me, rightly so, have said that this woman is an absolute idiot and should be kicked out of Japan. First of all, the Torii gates are sacred religious gates for most people here, so doing pull-ups on them is incredibly disrespectful, and also just doing pull-ups on something that people love, something see as a national sign of Japan, is even worse. How could you come to it and then just decide, oh, I'm going to do this for the Instagram clout? Oh, this woman apparently had a whopping 130 followers on Twitter. Oh, what a star you are. 130,000. You are a hero. But when I saw this, I just went, really? Really? Why do people do this? This is why places like here in Toshima have banned tourists from certain parts of the island, because we get stupid stories like this because tourists can't behave themselves. So annoying. So annoying. But there we go. The next news story to come out of Japan. Oh, I'll give you a nice one to break up the things of horrible tourists. If you're coming to Japan in the next couple of weeks, it is of course Halloween here, and you can now get to experience one of my favourite movies, which is Train to Busan. A Japanese train company from Osaka to Tokyo have decided to do a zombie themed train where they will have actors acting like zombies on the train. They also have some fun things going on there, and you can pretend like, oh, I'm actually on the train from Busan. They also have a sort of reenactment of the music video Thriller. They have all sorts of fun going on. They have what they call a scare squad to make people scared on the train. This seems very, very, very fun. Although, can you imagine accidentally getting on this train by mistake and then just seeing all these zombies freaking you out? Oh man, that would be Stefan's day of hell. But this looks really fun. The price of it is pretty pricey. It is 50,000 yen, which is pretty pricey for a train ticket to Osaka to Tokyo. But you are, of course, getting all these extra service, extra fun along the way. The price would put it out of my range. I think I wouldn't do that for 50,000 yen, sorry. But what do you think? Would you give this a try for 50,000 yen? Would you turn up? Would you have the fun? Would you pretend to be one of the zombies? Let me know. I'd like to hear your opinion on that. I thought this was very, very fun until I saw the whopping price of 50,000 yen. Ouch. Ouch, 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 ouch. That is expensive. 50,000 yen. Ooh, that hurts. That hurts my kidneys. Ugh, my body. Next. This is a bad story turned into a good news story. Everyone here who actually lives in Japan absolutely, I think, hates these little Mario Kart things, or the karting companies. You shouldn't call them Mario Kart because they're nothing to do with Nintendo. But if you come to Tokyo, you can rent go-karts and you can drive around, I think it's Shinjuku or Shibuya on these little go-karts, and you can pretend like you're in Mario. It is incredibly stupid. Why anyone would want to drive around on the street in Tokyo? I don't even want to drive getting in Tokyo just for work or for fun. That is a nightmare. That's incredibly dangerous. Driving in a city is incredibly stressful and not fun. But these companies rent out these go-karts to foreigners who are meant to have driving licenses, and they should have a Japanese international license. I used to have one when I first came here. You can get them. They're pretty cheap in the UK. If you have a driving license, you can get an international driving license for something like £15 or £20. Very, very cheap. Very, very affordable. And then you can come and rent a car here. But what the rent-a-car companies have been doing is basically not checking that they have the correct license. And this week, one of the companies that rent out these go-karts did get prosecuted because they failed to make sure that their people who are renting them have correct driver licenses, because someone who was driving around in the car, two people were found to not have the correct Japanese license that you needed, and that started off a whole lot of trouble. These carts are, I would say, sort of being investigated. They're being looked into by a lot of people in Tokyo to say, is this safe to have these cars? Recently, one of these little go-karts crashed into a taxi, and that caused all sorts of news stirs. I think these are incredibly stupid and even dangerous. I think they should be a much better place where you can go and rent go-karts, and surely somewhere in Tokyo, somewhere outside of Tokyo, could create for you a little fun actual go-kart track where you can drive around and enjoy it. Why you want to do it on the street, I'll never know. You can't even, you can't even race on them. You're just driving around like a normal person. That's not fun. It's pointless. And you got to avoid basically death from lorries, taxi drivers, and every pissed off person in Tokyo. No, thank you. Not for Stefan. Not for me. But something that is fun is just outside of Tokyo, which looks fun to me, is a T-Rex race. That's right, in Fuki Prefecture, there is now what they call the 13th annual T-Rex run, where people dress up in those fun little T-Rex costumes and have a race up and down a hill. And the people doing it were 109 people, so a lot of competition this year. And the age range was from 1 year old, that is adorable, to 74 years old. Less adorable, not as cute. But you can come, you can do it. It's a little bit of safe fun. It's just running in a field. You don't have to worry about getting hit by a taxi. And if you're fit enough, then maybe you can even come home with the gold, baby. And that's what I'm talking about, a nice little bit of gold silverware. Next news story for you is, this, I believe it was September. Yeah. So this September, tourists broke the Japanese record for spending the most money in Japan, because so many more tourists are coming here at the moment, which is great for tourists. Come and see Japan. It's bad for me if I want to go to Fukuoka, because Fukuoka hotels at the moment are through the roof. Thank you very much, tourists, for visiting Japan. That's not helping me when I want to go for a quick weekend away off the island, but yeah, a lot of tourists coming here. People are getting used to more tourists. I'm getting asked more questions about more tourists coming to see here. And even on my island, I have noticed recently there are a lot more tourists from outside of Korea. No, I mean, most of the time when I get tourists on the island, they're pretty much all Koreans. But recently, seen a lot of people like me. A lot of people like me walking around from, where was they from? Poland. Poland, the people said that they were from. So good for them. Yeah. So that's it. They broke the record for most money spent in Japan. So this is a nice story. Look, Japan, look how much money we're bringing into you. Fantastic. Keep the change. Keep the change, baby. And the next news story for you. You might have heard that quitting your job in Japan is insanely difficult and comes with a lot of headache. And because of that, there are a lot of companies out there that will quit your job for you. And apparently 1 in 6 Japanese person have used these agencies to quit their job. And I was actually very surprised by their pricing. It's not particularly cheap to quit your job. It's certainly not. So if you are in a full-time job, it costs you 22,000 yen to get the company to do it, which is £110. But if you're a part-time worker, it's only 12,000 yen, 12,300 yen. So if you're in a part-time job, not too bad. I would say if it's me, I'll just quit myself because I wouldn't want to pay that. But people are saying that a lot more people in Japan are quitting their jobs. A lot more younger people are more willing to change jobs compared to the older people here in Japan, who pretty much will just stay in the same company until death. So what do you think about this? Have you had to experience quitting your job in Japan? Was it difficult? Was it bad? I've heard some real horror stories. I will say, most people, I just think if you're quitting your job, you just say, hey, look, that's it. I'm quitting my job. That's it. It's done. We're over. Here's my 2-week notice, which I believe is the legal requirement that you're meant to do. You're meant to give 2 weeks notice, and then that'll be it. Finished. Done. I've heard that Japanese companies can be really manipulative. If you tell them where you're going to work next, they will try and maybe phone that company up and talk bad to you and stop you from moving. So if you are quitting your job in Japan, maybe it's worth just be like saying, where are you going to go? Where are you going to go next? Just go, I don't know, I'm just quitting my job. Or just go, you know what? That's for me to know and not for you to know. Just say, I politely don't want to answer that question. Thank you very much. And that's the end of this. That's my 2 weeks notice, and we're finished here. Bunk, bunk, bunk. Leave and walk away. And here's my thing. If people are rude to you, you don't have to take it. Just walk away. Just say, dude, I'm not listening to this. This is it. That's the end of the story. It's finished. Bang. Over. And our next news story for you is, not only are foreign people coming to visit Japan in their droves, but a lot more people are coming down and settling here. As of June, 3.5 million people who are foreign now live in Japan. Whoa, can you believe it? And I have to say, as someone who lives in Japan, it's pretty good. There are some downsides. The overworking culture is probably the worst thing about living in Japan, that people just work far too much. And I think sometimes just a little bit too go with the flow and don't want to cause any problems. And this actually, I think, creates more problems than I think it solves problems. But for the most part, living in Japan is very, very nice. There's a lot of convenient things if you're in the right place. And everyone, to me, has been just unbelievably friendly. And the places that I work are great. But, it's not all perfect things, but it is good living here. And it is getting, I think, a little bit easier if you're a foreign person living in Japan. It used to be almost impossible to rent a place as a foreigner. It's still very, very difficult to rent one, but you can find them, which is very, very nice. And the more foreign people who come here, hopefully in theory it will get a little bit more easy for us to live here, because the banks and everything will get used to dealing with foreign people. Who knows? Fingers crossed. But it's now 3.5, in fact almost 3.6 foreign people living here. It's actually apparently 3,588,000. Would you believe it? Look at all of us gaijin coming here. Oh my good lord, we're going to be taking over Japan soon. It's going to be the way. But next news story for you is, This is one of these public transport stories that I see, which I'm like, oh, well, what do you want us to do, Japan? Come on, this is crazy. So apparently, Japan's tourists are infuriating the locals, and I had this when I went to Tokyo in the Christmas period. If you're going to Tokyo for a long time, you take your bag and your suitcase, and you need to because you're going to be spending there a lot of time. But having a suitcase on public transport is an absolute nightmare. And the Japanese locals are getting very annoyed, and they want people to travel in Japan as pretty much luggage free as possible. They want them to enact a minimalist mentality and not bring any clothes with them whatsoever, and just basically wear the clothes on their back. And if you dare to bring a suitcase, apparently here the Japanese residents would like you to post your suitcase over to your next destination. Personally, I would never do this because I'm a bit of a control freak and I absolutely hate sending things, especially when I first moved here to Japan. I remember having all my valuables on me, my whole life in my suitcase, and people being like, oh yeah, so you're going to ship your bag over to your next destination? I was like, I've just traveled with my stuff 10 hours on a suitcase. I think I can manage taking the next 2 hours and carrying the suitcase with me. I was like, there is no way I am not bringing my suitcase with me, because if I lose this is basically half my life just gone. So I took my suitcase with me from all the way from the UK to Tokyo back to my little island here, because I am a control freak. I could not risk losing my stuff. I would have been so furious if I lost my bag in transit. I know the Japanese are very good, but if you know the postage system in the UK, oh my god, I just could not risk it. But would you do this if you come to visit Japan? Would you get to Narita Airport, for say, and then post your suitcase onto another location? Have you done it? Have you had any problems with it? For me, I just think I'd much rather carry it. At least I've got it. It's not that difficult if you're young like me. If you are a little bit older, I can definitely see the perks of posting your suitcase on. But yeah, I would never do this. And you know what? This is unfortunately the downside of having tourists. You have people with suitcases on trains. But look how much money we just brought in. We broke the Japanese record. It is such a weird thing with tourists that every country wants them here, and then once they get here they're like, oh, tourists are causing all these problems, it's so horrible, but look how much money they're bringing in. Oh yeah, that's a problem. Instead of you know what, let's fix this, and maybe let's put a baggage only area on the train so that we don't have these solutions. Oh no, that would be far too difficult. That would cost us more money, even though we're earning all this money from the tourists. But no, let's just blame the tourists instead. That's much better mentality. But that's my little rant over about people hating tourists, even though they bring in so much money. Next news story for you is, oh man, this story was so infuriating to me. Google, I don't know if you saw recently, they had to open up to third-party app stores because they have what they call a monopoly on this. But they have managed to push this release down the road. They were meant to meet a November 1st deadline to open up to rival app stores, but they have now managed to convince the judge that while they're appealing this case, that they don't need to open it up, because they say that they cannot make sure that the new third-party stores will not be available to fraud and crime. This is so frustrating. I want Apple to open this up. I can't remember if I did this news story or not, but I have an old iPad basically, and Apple have basically bricked it. You can't download any more apps because no one supports it anymore, and because there's no third-party stores on it, I can't download any more apps or anything, and it's just, my iPad is now bricked. It's so frustrating. But if there was a third-party store that I could go through, not within Apple, I could download probably other apps, because someone like me would have had an old iPad and think, you know what, hey, this is a business opportunity here. You can't download any more apps from Apple. I'm going to support this myself and start making some money on it. And Google are now controlling this monopoly. And I just think it's ridiculous that two app stores have complete control over the market on what you can and can't sell. So frustrating. Could you imagine if only Microsoft or Apple could could stop it so you can't buy or download any more stuff on your computer. That's so annoying. Adobe would be mad. Oh my God, just imagine it. Steam, every single company in the world would be against it. Why they've managed to hold this monopoly for so long is ridiculous. But I absolutely hate the world that phones and laptops are going. I mean, the way that mobile phones are now, that you can't replace the battery yourself, you can't replace any of the ports yourself. I heard that apparently for the new iPhone screens, you can now repair the screens for yourself, but Apple are making it incredibly difficult, and you also have to buy this machine or rent this machine to fix the cases, and the machine, the press to change the screens, costs $1,000. And guess who's the only people who sell it? That's right, Apple for you. Ah, man, I hate Apple and I hate Google with a passion. Any big company that makes it hard to do things is ridiculous. I saw this great video clip of, I think it was 14 years ago, when Google didn't have this monopoly on smartphones. They were going to build this great little smartphone where it was almost like Lego and you could take out pieces from it easily. So like the camera, it just pulled off this thing and you could replace it with a new camera. The microphone, if it got broken, you could replace it with a new microphone. Everything was very interchangeable, very easy. But why didn't they make this standard practice? Oh, of course, because that doesn't make them enough money, and they love money. I would love that. My Samsung now, which I really don't want to change, but at some point I'm going to have to. The batteries, I've had it changed once, and then because of that I got the phone wet and it wasn't water sealed, so one of my microphones on the phone is a little bit iffy on it, so that is incredibly frustrating. But I absolutely do not want to change this phone because they are so expensive, and also, not that I use it anymore, but it has a headphone jack, and I like a phone that has a headphone jack because I'm an old-fashioned man, and it drives me absolutely insane that everything now, they want you to have it wireless and then you need to charge it. But yeah, I love having the backup that if my proper headphones are dead, I can just plug some normal aux headphones, listen to the music and enjoy. But there we go. Last news story of the day, because my voice is going, is if you heard recently, there was a unexploded bomb that went off at one of the airports in Japan. And apparently, I couldn't believe this, 2 more unexploded bombs were found in Okinawa this week. And they luckily have found a way to, I believe, take them out of the airport and defuse them. But it's crazy that even after this time, you know, we're getting up to 80 years. I mean, we are 80 years since World War II, and they're still picking up bombs from that time. It's just ludicrous, especially at airports. I thought there would absolutely be no way, with all the security stuff that has to go on there, all the architecture to building a runway, these would have been found. But no, they still creep up in weird places. This has been crazy, not just at one airport, but 2 airports. Absolute madness, absolute madness. But there we go. That is the stories for this week. I hope you have had an absolutely lovely week wherever you are, and I will see you in the next videos. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you soon. Goodbye.